Hello, hello everyone. And how is everyone doing? I hope today finds you all doing well. I'm just going to sit here and talk with y'all a little bit while the ad break still goes. As of right now, Sacral is still doing the opening for The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. For those who don't know who that is, apparently it is the gentleman in yellow that you meet right as soon as, like right before you meet Merry and Pippin and that. But um, he is there. He is the one who was, or Tom Bombadil was the one that was there before the Shire was the Shire. He was there before the elves, before the hobbits. Well, he is a very jolly, chaotic fellow, and I was asking Sagral, is he kind of akin to Aslan, the lion back here behind Prince Caspian? And Sagral said, not quite, for Tom Bombadil is not God. Or a god, effectively. He did not create the world of the hobbits and everything. He's merely there to help everyone along and has been there first. Whereas Aslan created Narnia. He breathed life into it. He actually, as if you guys were there with us when I read The Magician's Nephew, when the magician, his nephew, the neighbor, and Jadis, who became the White Witch, stumbled into there. It was pitch black nothing. And then it started to become a gray and brighten up, and they saw the lion. The lion effectively breathed life into everything. But yeah, so I am reading the Chronicles of Narnia. I'm on the fourth book now, Prince Caspian, as you can see the trailer here, because it was actually made into a movie. Um, and he is reading the very first part of the Lord of the Rings series. That is the Tales of Tom Bombadil. So let's go ahead and get into Prince Caspian. Once there were four children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. And it has been told in another book called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, how they had a remarkable adventure. They had opened the door of a magic wardrobe and found themselves in a quite different world from ours. And in that different world they had become kings and queens of a country called Narnia. While they were in Narnia, they seemed to reign for years and years, but when they came back through the door, they found themselves in England again, and it all seemed to have taken no time at all. At any rate, no one noticed that they had ever been away, and they never told anyone, except one wise grown-up. That all happened a year ago, and now all four of them were sitting on a seat at a railway station with trunks and playboxes piled up around them. They were, in fact, on their way back to school. They had traveled together as far as this station, which was a junction, and here, in a few minutes, one train would arrive and take the girls away to school, and in about half an hour another train would arrive, and the boys would go off to another school. The first part of the journey, when they were all together, always seemed to be part of the holidays. But now, when they would be saying good-bye and going different ways soon, everyone felt that the holidays really were over, and everyone felt that their term time feelings becoming again, and all were rather gloomy, and no one could think of anything to say. Lucy was going to boarding school for the first time. It was an empty, sleepy country station, and there was hardly anyone on the platform except themselves. Suddenly Lucy gave a sharp little cry, like someone who had just been stung by a wasp. "What's up, Lou?" said Edmund, and then suddenly broke off and made a noise like "Ow!" What on earth? Began Peter, and then he too suddenly changed what he had been going to say. Instead, he said, Susan, let's go. What are you doing? Where are you dragging me to? I'm not touching you, said Susan. Someone's pulling me. Oh, 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 stop it! Everyone noticed that all the others' faces had gone very white. I just felt the same, said Edmund, in a breathless voice, as if I were being dragged along. A most frightful pulling. Ugh, it's beginning again. Me too, said Lucy. Oh, I can't bear it. Look sharp, shouted Edmund. All catch hands and keep together. This is magic. I can tell by the feeling. Quick. Yes, said Susan. Hold hands. Oh, I do wish it would stop. Oh. Next moment, the luggage, the seat, the platform, and the station had completely vanished. The four children, holding hands and panting, found themselves standing in a woody place. Such a woody place that branches were sticking into them, and there was hardly room to move. They all rubbed their eyes and took a deep breath. "Oh, Peter," exclaimed Lucy, "do you think we can possibly have gotten back to Narnia?" "It might be anywhere," said Peter. "I can't see a yard in all these trees. Let's try to get into the open, if there really is any opening." With some difficulty, and with some strings from nettles and pricks from thorns, they struggled out of the thicket. Then they had another surprise. Everything became much brighter, and after a few steps they found themselves at the edge of the wood, looking down on a sandy beach. A few yards away a very calm sea was falling on the sand with such tiny ripples that it made hardly any sound. There was no land in sight, and no clouds in the sky. The sun was about where it ought to be at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the sea was a dazzling blue. They stood sniffing the sea smell. "By Jove," said Peter, "this is good enough." 5 minutes later, everyone was barefooted and wading into the cool, clear water. This is better than being in a stuffy train on the way back to Latin and French and algebra," said Edmund, and then, for quite a long time, there was no more talking, only splashing and looking for shrimps and crabs. "All the same," said Susan presently, "I suppose we'll have to make some plans. We shall want something to eat before long." "We've got the sandwiches Mother gave us for the journey," said Edmund. "At least, I've got mine." "Not me," said Lucy. "Mine were in my little bag." "So were mine," said Susan. "Mine were in my coat pocket, there on the beach," said Peter. "That'll be 2 lunches among 4. This isn't going to be such fun." "At present," said Lucy, "I want something to drink more than something to eat." Everyone else now felt thirsty, as one usually is after wading in salt water under a hot sun. "It's like being shipwrecked," remarked Edmund. "In the books, they always find springs of clear, fresh water on the island. We'd better go and look for them." "Does it mean we have to go back into all that thick wood?" said Susan. "Not a bit of it," said Peter. "If there are streams, they're bound to come down to the beach, and if we walk along the beach, we're bound to come to them." They all now waded back and went first across the smooth, wet sand, and then up to the dry, crumbly sand that sticks to one's toes, and began to put on their shoes and socks. Edmund and Lucy wanted to leave them behind and do their exploring with bare feet, but Susan said this would be a mad thing to do. "We might never find them again," she pointed out, "and we shall want them if we are here when night comes and it begins to be cold." When they were dressed again, they set out along the shore, with the sea on their left hand and the wood on their right. Except for an occasional seagull, it was a very quiet place. The wood was so thick and tangled that they could hardly see into it at all, and nothing in it moved, not a bird, not even an insect. Shells and seaweed and anemones, or tiny crabs in rock pools, were all very well, but you soon get tired of them if you are thirsty. The children's feet, after the change from the cool water, felt hot and heavy. Susan and Lucy had raincoats to carry. Edmund had put down his coat on the station seat just before the magic overtook them, and he and Peter took it in turns to carry Peter's greatcoat. Presently the shore began to curve round to the right. About quarter of an hour later they had crossed a rocky ridge which ran out to a point. It made a sharp turn. Their backs were now to the part of the sea which they had met them when they first came out of the wood, and now, looking ahead, they could see across the water another shore, thickly wooded like the one they were exploring. "I wonder, is this an island, or do we join on to it presently?" said Lucy. "Dunno," said Peter, and they all plodded out on in silence. The shore that they were walking on drew nearer and nearer to the opposite shore, and as they came round each promontory the children expected to find a place where the two joined, but in this they were disappointed. They came to some rocks which they had to climb, and from the top they could see a fair way ahead, and "Oh, brother," said Edmund, "it's no good. We shan't be able to get to those woods at all. We're on an island." It was true. At this point the channel between them and the opposite coast was only about 30 or 40 yards wide, but they could now see that this was the narrowest place. After that their own coast bent round to the right again, and they could see open sea between it and the mainland. It was obvious that they had already come much more than half-way round the island. "Look," said Lucy suddenly. "What's that?" She pointed to a long, silvery, snake-like thing that lay across the beach. "A stream! A stream!" shouted the others, and tired as they were, they lost no time in clattering down the rocks and racing to the fresh water. They knew that the stream would be better to drink farther up, away from the beach, so they went at once to the spot where it came out of the wood. The trees were as thick as ever, but the stream had made itself a deep course between high mossy banks, so that by stooping you could follow it up a sort of tunnel of leaves. They dropped on their knees by the first brown, dimply pool, and drank, and dipped their faces in the water, and then dipped their arms in up to the elbow. "Now," said Edmund, "what about those sandwiches?" "Oh, hadn't we better save them?" said Susan. "We may need them far worse later on." "I do wish," said Lucy, "now that we're not thirsty, we could go on feeling as not hungry as we did when we were thirsty." "But what about those sandwiches?" repeated Edmund. "There's no good saving them till they go bad. You've got to remember it's a good deal hotter here than in England, and we've been carrying them around in our pockets for hours." So they got out the 2 packets, divided them into 4 portions, and nobody had quite enough. But it was a great deal better than nothing. Then they talked about their plans for the next meal. Lucy wanted to go back to the sea and catch shrimp, until someone pointed out that they had no nets. Edmund said that they must gather gulls' eggs from the rocks, but when they came to think of it, they couldn't remember having seen any gulls' eggs, and wouldn't have been able to cook them, even if they found any. Peter thought to himself that unless they had some stroke of luck, they would soon be glad to eat eggs raw, but he didn't see any point in saying this out loud. Susan said it would be a pity they had eaten the sandwiches so soon. 1 or 2 tempers very nearly lost at this stage. Finally Edmund said, "Look here, there's only one thing to be done. We must explore the wood. Hermits and knight-errants and people like that are always manage to live somehow if they're in a forest. They find roots and berries and things." "What sort of roots?" asked Susan. "I always thought it meant roots of trees," said Lucy. "Come on," said Peter. "Ed is right, and we must try and do something. And it'll be better than going out into the glare and the sun again." So they all got up and began to follow the stream. It was very hard work. They had to stoop under branches and climb over branches, and they blundered through great masses of stuff like rhododendrons and tore their clothes and got their feet wet in the stream. And still there was no noise at all, except the noise of the stream and the noises they were making themselves. They were beginning to get very tired of it when they noticed a delicious smell, and then a flash of bright color high above them at the top of the right bank. "I say," exclaimed Lucy, "I do believe that's an apple tree." It was. She panted up the steep bank, forced their way through some brambles, and found themselves standing round an old tree that was heavy with large yellowish golden apples as firm and juicy as you would wish to see. "And this is not the only tree," said Edmund, with his mouth full of apple. "Look there, and there." "Why, there are dozens of them," said Susan, throwing away the core of her first apple and picking her second. "This must have been an orchard, long, long ago, before the place went wild and the wood grew up." "Then this was once an inhabited island," said Peter. "And what's that?" said Lucy, pointing ahead. "By Jove, it's a wall," said Peter, "an old stone wall." Pressing their way between the laden branches, they reached the wall. It was very old and broken down in places, with moss and wildflowers growing on it, but it was higher than all but the tallest trees, and when they came quite close to it, they found a great arch which must once have had a gate in it, but was now almost filled up with the largest of all the apple trees. They had to break some of the branches to get past, and when they had done so, they all blinked because the daylight became such brighter suddenly. They found themselves in a wide open place, with walls all around it, and here there were no trees, only level grass and daisies and ivy and gray walls. It was a bright, secret, quiet place, and rather sad, and all four stepped out into the middle of it, glad to be able to straighten their backs and move their limbs freely. "It wasn't a garden," said Susan presently. "It was a castle, and this must have been the courtyard." "I see what you mean," said Peter. "Yes, that is the remnants of a tower, and there is what used to be a flight of steps going up to the top of the walls. And look at those other steps, the broad, shallow ones, going up to that doorway. It must have been the door into a great hall." "Ages ago, by the look of it," said Edmund. "Yes, ages ago," said Peter. "I wish we could find out who the people were that lived in this castle, and how long ago." "It gives me a strange feeling," said Lucy. "Does it, Lou?" said Peter, turning and looking hard at her. "Because it does the same to me. It is the queerest thing that has happened this queer day. I wonder where we are, and what it all means." While they were talking, they had crossed the courtyard and gone through the other doorway into what had once been the hall. This was now very like the courtyard, for the roof had long since disappeared, and it was merely another space of grass and daisies, except that it was shorter and narrower, and the walls were higher. Across the far end was a kind of terrace about 3 feet high, or 3 feet higher than the rest. "Tank, what's up?" "Wait, what you mean you can't hear?" Or you're not listening. Um, can you not hear it? Excuse me, sorry. Am I coming through? What you mean you can't hear? Okay, just checking. All right. Mhm. I wonder, was it really the hall? Said Susan. What is that terrace kind of thing? "Why, you silly," said Peter, who had become strangely excited. "Don't you see? That was the dais where the high table was, where the king and great lords sat. Anyone would think you had forgotten that we ourselves were once kings and queens and sat on a dais just like that in our great hall. In our castle at Cair Paravel, continued Susan, in a dreamy and rather sing-song voice, at the mouth of the great river of Narnia. How could I forget? How it all comes back, said Lucy. We could pretend we were in Cair Paravel now. This hall must have been very like the great hall we feasted in. But unfortunately, without the feast, said Edmund. It's getting late, you know. Look how long the shadows are, and have you noticed that it isn't so hot? Shall we need a campfire if we're going to spend the night here? Said Peter. I've got matches. Let's go and see if we can collect some dry wood. Everyone saw the sense of this, and for the next half hour they were busy. The orchard, though, which they had first come in the ruins, turned out not to be a good place for firewood. They tried the other side of the castle, passing out of the hall by a little side door into a maze of stony humps and hollows which must once have been passages and smaller rooms, but was now all nettles and wild roses. Beyond this they found a wide gap in the castle wall, and stepped through it into a wood of darker, bigger trees, where they found dead branches and rotten wood and sticks and dry leaves and fir cones in plenty. They went to and fro with bundles until they had a good pile on the dais. At the fifth journey, they found the well, just outside the hall, hidden in weeds, but clean and fresh and deep when they had cleared these away. The remains of a stone pavement ran halfway round it. Then the girls went out to pick some more apples, and the boys built the fire on the dais, which fairly close to the corner between two walls, which they thought would be the snuggest and warmest place. They had great difficulty in lighting it, and used a lot of matches, but they succeeded in the end. Finally, all four sat down with their backs to the wall and their faces to the fire. They tried roasting some of the apples on the ends of sticks, but roast apples are not such good without sugar, and they are too hot to eat with your fingers till they are too cold to be worth eating. So they had to content themselves with raw apples, which, as Edmund said, made one realize that school suppers weren't so bad after all. I shouldn't mind a good thick slice of bread with margarine this minute, he added, but the spirit of adventure was rising in them, and no one really wanted to go back to school. Shortly after the last apple had been eaten, Susan went out through the well to get another drink. When she came back, she was carrying something in her hand. Look, she said, in a rather choking kind of voice. I found it by the well. She handed it to Peter and sat down. The others thought she looked and sounded as if she might be going to cry. Edmund and Lucy eagerly bent forward to see what was in Peter's hand, a little bright thing that gleamed in the firelight. Well, I'm jiggered, said Peter, and his voice sounded queer. Then he handed it to the others. All now saw that it was a little chess-knight, ordinary in size, but extraordinarily heavy because it was made of pure gold, and the eyes in the horse's head were two tiny little rubies. Or rather, one was, but the other had been knocked out. Why, said Lucy, that's exactly like one of the golden chessmen we used to play with when we were kings and queens at Cair Paravel. Cheer up, Sue, said Peter to his sister. I can't help it, said Susan. It brought back, oh, such lovely times. And I remembered playing chess with fauns and good giants, and mer people singing in the sea, and my beautiful horse, and now, said Peter, in a quite different voice, it's about time we four started using our brains. About what? Asked Edmund. Have none of you guessed where we are? Said Peter. Go on, said Lucy. I felt for hours that we were somewhere wonderful, mystery hanging over this place. Fire ahead, Peter, said Edmund. We're all listening. "We're in the ruins of Caraparavel itself," said Peter. "But I say," said Edmund, "I mean, how do you make that out? This place has been ruins for ages. Look at all those big trees growing right up to the gates. Look at the very stones. Anyone can see nobody has lived here for hundreds of years." "I know," said Peter. "That is the difficulty. But let's leave out that for one moment. I want to take the points one by one. First point. This hall is exactly the same size and shape as the hall at Caraparaval. Just picture a roof on this, and a colored pavement inside of grass, or instead of grass, and tapestries on the walls, and you get our royal banqueting hall." No one said anything. "Second point," continued Peter. "The castle well is exactly where our well was, a little to the south of the great hall, and it is exactly the same size and shape." Again, there was no reply. "Third point, Susan has just found one of our old chessmen, or something like one of them, as 2 peas." Still, nobody answered. "Fourth point, you don't remember, it was the very day before the ambassadors came from the King of Kellerman. You don't remember planting the orchard outside the north gate of Caraparavel. The greatest of all the wood people, Pomona herself, came and put good spells on it. It was those very decent little chaps, the moles, who did the actual digging. Can you have forgotten that funny old Lilygloves, the chief mole, leaning on his spade and saying, 'Believe me, your Majesty, you'll be glad of these fruit trees one day.' And by Jove, he was right." I do," said Lucy, and clapped her hands. "But look here, Peter," said Edmund. "This must be all rot. To begin with, we didn't plant the orchard slap up against the gate. We wouldn't have been such fools." "No, of course not," said Peter. "But it has grown up to the gate since." "And for another thing," said Edmund, "Caraparavel wasn't on an island." "And for another thing, er, yes, I've been wondering about that, but it was what do you call it? A peninsula, jolly near an island. Couldn't have been made an island since our time. Somebody has dug a channel." "But half a moment," said Edmund. "You keep on saying since our time, but it's only a year ago since we came back from Narnia, and you want to make out that in a year castles have fallen down, and great forests have grown up, and little trees we saw planted ourselves have turned into a big old orchard, and goodness knows what else. It's all impossible." "Here's one thing," said Lucy. "If this is Cair Paravel, there ought to be a door at the end of the dais. In fact, we ought to be sitting with our backs against it at this moment. You know, the door that led into the treasure chamber." "I suppose there isn't a door," said Peter, getting up. The wall behind them was a mass of ivy. "We can soon find out," said Edmund, taking up one of the sticks that they had laid ready for putting on the fire. He began beating the ivied wall. Tap, tap went the stick against the stone, and again tap, tap, and then, all at once, boom, boom, with a quite different sound, a hollow wooden sound. "Great Scott!" said Edmund. "We must clear this ivy away," said Peter. "Or do let's leave it alone," said Susan. "We can try it in the morning. If we've got to spend the night here, I don't want an open door at my back, and a great big black hole that anything might come out of. Besides, the draught and the damp. And it'll soon be dark." "Susan, how can you?" said Lucy, with a reproachful glare. But both the boys were too much excited to take any notice of Susan's advice. They worked at the ivy with their hands and with Peter's pocket knife till the knife broke. After that they used Edmund's. Soon the whole place where they had been sitting was covered with ivy, and at last they had the door cleared. "Locked, of course," said Peter. "But the wood's all rotten," said Edmund. "We can pull it to bits in no time, and it'll be extra firewood. Come on." It took 'em longer than expected, and before they had done, the great hall had grown dusky, and the first star or two had come out overhead. Susan was not the only one who felt a slight shudder as the boys stood above the pile of splintered wood, rubbing the dirt off their hands and staring into the cold, dark opening they had made. "Now for a torch," said Peter. "Oh, what is the good?" said Susan. "As Edmund said—" "I'm not saying it now," Edmund interrupted. "I still don't understand, but we can settle that later. I suppose you're coming down, Peter." "We must," said Peter. "Cheer up, Susan. It's no good behaving like little kids now that we are back in Narnia. You're a queen here. And anyway, no one could go to sleep with a mystery like this on their minds." They tried to use long sticks as torches, but this was not a success. If you held them with the lighted end up, they went out, and if you held them the other way, they scorched your hand, and the smoke got in your eyes. In the end, they had to use Edmund's electric torch. Luckily, it had been a birthday present less than a week ago, and the battery was almost new. He went first, with the light, then came Lucy, then Susan, and Peter brought up the rear. "I've come to the top of the step," said Edmund. "Count them," said Peter. "1, 2, 3," said Edmund, as he went cautiously down, and so up to 16. "And this is the bottom," he shouted back. "Then it really must be Cair Paravel," said Lucy. There were 16. Nothing more was said till all four were standing in a knot together at the foot of the stairway. Then Edmund flashed his torch slowly round. "Ooh!" said all children at once. And now all knew that it was indeed the ancient treasure chamber of Cair Paravel, where they had once reigned as kings and queens of Narnia. There was a kind of path up the middle, as it might be in a greenhouse, and along each side, at intervals, stood rich suits of armor, like knights guarding the treasures. In between the suits of armor, and on each side of the path, were shelves covering with precious things, necklaces and arm rings, and finger rings, and golden bowls and dishes, and long tusks of ivory, brooches and coronets, and chains of gold, and heaps of unset stones lying piled anyhow as if it were marbles or potatoes. Diamonds, rubies, carbuncles, emeralds, topazes, and amethysts. Under the shelves stood great chests of oak, strengthened with iron bars, and heavily padlocked. It was bitterly cold, and so still that they could hear themselves breathing, and the treasures were so covered with dust that unless they had been realized they were and remembered most of the things, they would hardly have known they were treasures. There was something sad and a little frightening about the place, because it all seemed so forsaken and long ago. That was why nobody said anything for at least a minute. Then, of course, they began walking about and picking things up to look at. It was like meeting very old friends. If you had been there, you would have heard them saying things like, "Oh, look, our coronation rings. Do you remember first wearing this? Why, this is the little brooch we all thought was lost. I say, isn't that the armor you wore in the great tournament at the Lone Islands? Do you remember the dwarf making it for me? Do you remember drinking out of that horn? Do you remember? Do you remember?" But suddenly Edmund said, "Look here, we mustn't waste the battery. Goodness knows how often we shall need it. Hadn't we better take what we want and get out again?" "We must take the gifts," said Peter, for long ago, at a Christmas in Narnia, he and Susan and Lucy had been given certain presents which they valued more than their whole kingdom. Edmund had had no gift, because he was not with them at the time. That was his own fault, as you can read about it in the other book. They all agreed with Peter, and walked up the path to the wall at the far end of the treasure chamber, and there, sure enough, the gifts were still hanging. Lucy's was the smallest, for it was only a little bottle, but the bottle was made of diamond instead of glass, and it was still more than half full of magical cordial, which would heal almost every wound and every illness. Lucy said nothing, and looked very solemn as she took her gift down from its place, and slung the belt over her shoulder, and once more felt the bottle at her side, where it used to hang in the old days. Susan's gift had been a bow and arrows and a horn. The bow was still there, the ivory quiver full of well-feathered arrows, but "Oh, Susan," said Lucy, "where's the horn?" "Oh, bother, bother, bother," said Susan, after she had thought for a moment. "I remember now. I took it with me the last day of all, the day we went hunting the white stag. It must have got lost when we blundered back into the other place. England, I mean." Edmund whistled. It was indeed a shattering loss, for this was an enchanted horn, and, whenever you blew it, help was certain to come to you, wherever you were. "Just the sort of thing that might come in handy in a place like this," said Edmund. "Never mind," said Susan. "I've still got the bow," and she took it. "Won't the string be perished, Sue?" said Peter. But whether by some magic in the air of the treasure chamber or not, the bow was still in working order. Archery and swimming were the things Susan was good at. In a moment she had bent the bow, and then she gave one little pluck to the string. It twanged, a chirping twang that vibrated through the whole room. And that one small noise brought back the old days to the children's minds, more than anything that had happened yet. All the battles and hunts and feasts came rushing back into their heads together. Then she unstrung the bow again and slung the quiver at her side. Next, Peter took down his gift, the shield with the great red lion on it, and the royal sword. He blew and rapped them on the floor to get off the dust. He fitted the shield on his arm and slung the sword by his side. He was afraid at first that it might be rusty and stick to the sheath, but it was not so. With one swift motion he drew it and held it up, shining in the torchlight. "It is my sword, Rindon," he said. "With it I killed the wolf." There was a new tone in his voice, and the others all felt that he was really Peter the High King again. Then, after a little pause, everyone remembered that they must save the battery. They climbed the stair again, and made up a good fire, and lay down close together for warmth. The ground was very hard and uncomfortable, but they fell asleep in the end. The worst of sleeping out of doors is that you wake up so dreadfully early, and when you wake you have to get up because the ground is so hard that you are uncomfortable. And it makes matters worse if there is nothing but apples for breakfast, and you have had nothing but apples for supper the night before. When Lucy had said, truly enough, that it was a glorious morning, there did not seem to be anything else nice to be said. Edmund said what everyone was feeling. We've simply got to get off this island. When they had drunk from the well and splashed their faces, they all went down the stream again to the shore and stared at the channel which divided them from the mainland. "We have to swim," said Edmund. "It would be all right for Sue," said Peter. "Susan had won prizes for swimming at school. But I don't know about the rest of us." By the rest of us he really meant Edmund, who couldn't yet do 2 lengths at the school baths, and Lucy, who could hardly swim at all. "Anyway," said Susan, "there may be currents. Father says it's never wise to bathe in a place you don't know." "But Peter," said Lucy, "look here. I know I can't swim for nuts at home. In England, I mean. But couldn't we all swim long ago? If it was long ago, when we were kings and queens of Narnia, we could ride then, too, and do all sorts of things. Don't you think?" "Ah, but we were sort of grown up then," said Peter. "We reigned for years and years and learned to do things. Aren't we just back to our proper ages again now?" "Oh," said Edmund, in a voice that made everyone stop talking and listen to him. "I've just seen it all," he said. "Seen what?" asked Peter. "Why, the whole thing," said Edmund. "You know what we're puzzling about last night, that it was only a year ago since we left Narnia, but everything looks as if no one had lived at Cair Paravel for hundreds of years. Well, don't you see? You know that, however long ago we seem to have lived in Narnia, when we got back through the wardrobe, It seemed to have taken no time at all. Go on, said Susan. I think I'm beginning to understand. And that means, continued Edmund, that once you're out of Narnia, you have no idea how Narnian time is going. Why shouldn't hundreds of years have gone past in Narnia, while only 1 year had passed for us in England? By Jove, Ed, said Peter, I believe you've got it. In that sense, it really was hundreds of years ago that we lived at Cair Paravel, and now we're coming back to Narnia, just as if we were Crusaders, or Anglo-Saxons, or ancient Britons, or some one coming back to modern England. How excited they'll be to see us, began Lucy, but at the same moment everyone else said, hush, or look, for now something was happening. There was a wooded point on the mainland a little to their right, and they all felt sure that just beyond that point must be the mouth of the river. And now, round that point, there came into sight a boat. When it had cleared the point, it turned and began coming along the channel toward them. There were 2 people on board, one rowing, the other sitting in the stern, and holding a bundle that twitched and moved as if it were alive. Both these people seemed to be soldiers. They had steel caps on their heads, and light shirts and chain mail. Their faces were bearded and hard. The children drew back from the beach into the wood and watched without moving a finger. This'll do, said the soldier in the stern, when the boat had come about opposite to them. What about tying a stone to his feet, Corporal, said the other, resting on his oars. Garn, growled the other, we don't need that, and we haven't brought one. He'll drown sure enough without a stone, as long as we've tied the cords right. With these roads With these words, he rose and lifted his bundle. Peter now saw that it was really alive, and was in fact a dwarf, bound hand and foot, but struggling as hard as he could. The next moment he heard a twang just beside his ear, and all at once the soldiers threw up his arms, dropping the dwarf into the bottom of the boat, and fell over into the water. He floundered away to the far bank, and Peter knew that Susan's arrow had struck his helmet. He turned and saw she was very pale, but was already fitting a second arrow into the string, but it was never used. As soon as he saw his companion fall, the other soldier, with a loud cry, jumped out of the boat on the far side, and he also floundered through the water, which was apparently just in his depth, and disappeared into the woods of the mainland. Quick, before she drifts, shouted Peter. He and Susan, fully dressed as they were, plunged in, and before the water was up to their shoulders, their hands were on the side of the boat. In a few seconds they had hauled her back to the bank, and lifted the dwarf out, and Edmund was busily engaging in cutting his bonds with the pocket-knife. Peter's sword would have been sharper, but a sword is very inconvenient for this sort of work, because you can't hold it anywhere lower than the hilt. When at last the dwarf was free, he sat up, rubbed his arms and legs, and exclaimed, well, whatever they say, you don't feel like ghosts. Like most dwarfs, he was very stocky and deep-chested. He would have been about 3 feet high if he had been standing up, and an immense beard and whiskers of coarse red hair left little of his face to be seen except a beak-like nose and twinkling black eyes. Anyway, he continued, ghosts or not, you've saved my life, and I'm extremely obliged to you. But why should we be ghosts? Asked Lucy. I've been told all my life, said the dwarf, that these woods along the shore were as full of ghosts as they were of trees. That's what the story is. And that's why, when they want to get rid of anyone, they usually bring him down here, like they were doing with me, and they say they'll leave him to the ghosts. But I always wondered if they didn't really drown them or cut their throats. I never quite believed in the ghosts, but those 2 cowards you've just shot believed all right. They were more frightened of taking me to my death than I was of going. Oh, said Susan, so that's why they both ran away. Eh, what's that? Said the dwarf. They got away, said Edmund, to the mainland. I wasn't shooting to kill, you know, said Susan. She would not have killed anyone, or she would not have liked anyone to have think she could miss at such a short range. Said the dwarf. That's not so good. They may mean trouble later on, unless they hold their tongues for their own sake. What were they going to drown you for? Asked Peter. Oh, I'm a dangerous criminal, I am, said the dwarf cheerfully. But that's a long story. Meantime, I was wondering if perhaps you were going to ask me to breakfast. You've no idea what an appetite it gives one, being executed. There's only apples, said Lucy dolefully. Better than nothing, but not so good as fresh fish, said the dwarf. It looks as if I'll have to ask you to breakfast instead. I saw some fishing tackle in that boat, and anyway, we must take her round to the other side of the island. I don't want anyone from the mainland coming down and seeing her. I ought to have thought of that myself, said Peter. The four children and the dwarf went down to the water's edge, pushed off the boat with some difficulty, and scrambled aboard. The dwarf at once took charge. The oars were of course too big for him to use, so Peter rowed, and the dwarf steered them north along the channel, and presently eastward, round the tip of the island. From here the children could see right up the river, and all the bays and headlands of the coast beyond it. They thought they could recognize bits of it, but the woods, which had grown up since their time, made everything look different. When they had come round to the open sea on the east of the island, the dwarf took to fishing. They had an excellent catch of pavenders, a beautiful rainbow-colored fish, which they all remembered eating at Cair Paravel in the old days. When they had caught enough, they ran the boat up into a little creek and moored her to a tree. The dwarf, who was a most capable person, and indeed, though one meets bad dwarfs, I never heard of a dwarf who was a fool, cut the fish open, cleaned them, and said, "Now, what we want next is some firewood. We've got some up at the castle." The dwarf gave a low whistle. "Beards and bedsteads," he said. "So there really is a castle after all." "It's only a ruin," said Lucy. The dwarf stared round at all four of them with a very curious expression on his face. "And who on earth—" he began, but then he broke off and said, "No matter. Breakfast first. But one thing before we go on. Can you lay your hand on your hearts and tell me I'm really alive? Are you sure I wasn't drowned and we're not all ghosts together?" When they had all reassured him, the next question was how to carry the fish. They had nothing to string them on, and no basket. They had to use Edmund's hat in the end, because no one else had a hat. He would have made much more fuss about this if he had not by now been so ravenously hungry. At first the dwarf did not seem very comfortable in the castle. He kept looking round and sniffing and saying, looks a bit spooky after all. Smells like ghosts too. But he cheered up when it came to lighting the fire and showing them how to roast the fresh pavenders in the embers. Eating hot fish with no forks, and one pocket knife between 5 people, is a messy business, and there were several burnt fingers before the meal was ended. But as it was now 9 o'clock, and they had been up since 5, nobody minded the burns so much as you might have expected. When everyone had finished off with a drink from the well and an apple or so, the dwarf produced a pipe about the size of his own arm, filled it, lit it, blew a great cloud of fragrant smoke, and said, "Now, you will tell your story first," said Peter, "and then we'll tell you ours." "Well," said the dwarf, "as you've saved my life, it is only fair you should have your own way, but I hardly know where to begin. First of all, I'm a messenger of King Caspian's." "Who's he?" asked all 4 voices at once. "Caspian is the 10th king of Narnia, and long may he reign," answered the dwarf. "That is to say, he ought to be king of Narnia, and we hope he will be. At present, he is the only king of us old Narnians." "What do you mean by old Narnians, please?" asked Lucy. "Why, that's us," said the dwarf. "We're a kind of rebellion, I suppose." "I see," said Peter. "And Caspian is this chief of old Narnian?" "Well, in a manner of speaking," said the dwarf, scratching his head. But he's really a new Narnian himself, a Telmarine, if you'll follow me. I don't, said Edmund. It's worse than the War of the Roses, said Lucy. Oh dear, said the dwarf. I'm doing this very badly. Look here. I'll have to go right back to the beginning and tell you how Caspian grew up in his uncle's court and how he comes to be on our side at all. But it'll be a very long story. All the better, said Lucy. We love stories. So the dwarf settled down and told his tale. I shall not give it to you in his words, putting all the children's questions and interruptions, because it would take too long and be confusing, and, even so, it would leave out some points that the children only heard later, but the gist of the story, as they knew in the end, was as follows. Prince Caspian lived in a great castle in the center of Narnia with his uncle, Miraz, the king of Narnia, and his aunt, who had red hair and was called Queen Prinaprismia. His father and mother were dead, and the person whom Caspian loved best was his nurse, and though, being a prince, he had wonderful toys which would do almost anything but talk, he liked best the last hour of the day when the toys had all been put back in their cupboards and the nurse would tell him stories. He did not much care for his uncle and aunt, but about twice a week his uncle would send for him, and they would walk up and down together for half an hour on the terrace at the south side of the castle. One day, while they were doing this, the king said to him, "Well, boy, we must soon teach you to ride and use a sword. You know that your aunt and I have no children, so it looks as if you might have to be king when I am gone. How shall you like that, eh?" "I don't know, uncle," said Caspian. "Don't know, eh?" said Miraz. "Why, I should like to know what more anyone could wish for." "All the same, I do wish," said Caspian. "What do you wish?" asked the king. "I wish, I wish, I wish I could have lived in the old days," said Caspian. He was only a very little boy at the time. Up till now, King Miraz had been talking in the tiresome way that some grown-ups have, which makes it quite clear that they are not really interested in what you are saying. But now he suddenly gave Caspian a very sharp look. "Eh? What's that?" he said. "What old days do you mean?" "Oh, don't you know, uncle," said Caspian, "when everything was quite different, when all the animals could talk, and there were nice people who lived in the streams and the trees, naiads and dryads they were called, and there were dwarves, and there were lovely little fauns in the woods, and they had feet like goats, and—" "That's all nonsense for babies," said the king sternly. "Only fit for babies, do you hear? You're getting too old for that sort of stuff. At your age you ought to be thinking of battles and adventures, not fairy tales." "Oh, but there were battles and adventures in those days," said Caspian. "Wonderful adventures. Once there was a white witch, and she made herself queen of the whole country, and she made it so that it was always winter. And when 2 boys and 2 girls came from somewhere, and so they killed the witch, and they were made kings and queens of Narnia, and their names were Peter, Susan, and Edmund and Lucy. And they so reigned for ever so long, and everyone had a lovely time. And it was all because of Aslan." "Who's he?" said Miraz. And if Caspian had been a very little older, the tone of his uncle's voice would have warned him that it would be wiser to shut up. But he babbled on. "Oh, don't you know?" he said. "Aslan is the great lion who comes from over the sea." "Who has been telling you all this nonsense?" said the king, in a voice of thunder. Caspian was frightened, and said nothing. "Your Royal Highness," said King Miraz, letting go of Caspian's hand, which had been holding until now, "I insist upon being answered. Look me in the face. Who has been telling you this pack of lies?" "Nurse," faltered Caspian, and burst into tears. "Stop that noise," said his uncle, taking Caspian by the shoulders and giving him a shake. "Stop it, and never let me catch you talking, or thinking either, of all those silly stories again. There never were those kings and queens. How could there be 2 kings at the same time? And there's no such person as Aslan, and there's no such things as lions, and there never was a time when animals could talk. Do you hear?" "Yes, uncle," sobbed Caspian. "Then let us have no more of it," said the king. Then he was called to one of the gentlemen in waiting, who were standing at the far end of the terrace, and said in a cold voice, "Conduct his Royal Highness to his apartments, and send his Royal Highness's nurse to me at once." Next day Caspian found what a terrible thing he had done, for nurse had been sent away without even being allowed to say good-bye to him, and he was told he was to have a tutor. Caspian missed his nurse very much, and shed many tears, and because he was so miserable, he thought about the old stories of Narnia far more than before. He dreamed of dwarves and dryads every night, and tried very hard to make the dogs and cats in the castle talk to him. But the dogs only wagged their tails, and the cats only purred. Caspian felt sure that he would hate the new tutor, but when the new tutor arrived about a week later, he turned out to be the sort of person it was almost impossible not to like. He was the smallest and also the fattest man Caspian had ever seen. He had a long, silvery, pointed beard which came down to his waist, and his face, which was brown and covered with wrinkles, looked very wise, very ugly, and very kind. His voice was grave, and his eyes were merry, so that, until you got to know him really well, it was hard to know when he was joking and when he was serious. His name was Dr. Cornelius. Of all his lessons with Dr. Cornelius, the one that Caspian liked the best was history. Up till now, except for the nurse's stories, he had known nothing about the history of Narnia, and he was very surprised to learn that the royal family were newcomers to the country. "It was your Highness's ancestor, Caspian the First," said Dr. Cornelius, "who first conquered Narnia and made it his kingdom. It was he who brought all your nation into the country. You are not native Narnians at all. You are all Telmarines. That is, you all come from the land of Telmar, far beyond the western mountains. That is why Caspian the First is called Caspian the Conqueror." Holy bejesus, that was... How fast did you read? Sure. "Please, doctor," asked Caspian one day, "who lived in Narnia before we all came out here, out of Telmar." Sorry, guys. Literally, Sagrol came in and he's almost halfway through that book. "No men, or very few, lived in Narnia before the Telmarines took it," said Dr. Cornelius. "Then who did my great-great-grandancestors conquer?" "Whom, not who, your Highness," said Dr. Cornelius. "Perhaps it is time to turn from history to grammar." "Oh, please, not yet," said Caspian. "I mean, wasn't there a battle? Why is it called Caspian the Conqueror if there's nobody to fight with him?" "I said there were very few men in Narnia," said the doctor, looking at the little boy very strangely through his great spectacles. For a moment Caspian was puzzled, and then suddenly his heart gave a leap. "Do you mean," he gasped, "that there were other things? Do you mean it like in the stories, were there?" "Hush!" said Dr. Cornelius, laying his head very close to Caspian's. "Not a word more. Don't you know your nurse was sent away for telling you about old Narnia? The king doesn't like it. If he found me telling you secrets, you'd be whipped and I would have my head cut off." "But why?" asked Caspian. "It is high time we turned to grammar now," said Dr. Cornelius with a loud voice. "Will your Royal Highness be pleased to open Pulverularitus Siccus at the fourth page of his grammatical garden, or the Arbor of Accidents Pleasantili opened to tender wits?" After that it was all nouns and verbs till lunchtime, but I don't think Caspian learned much. He was too excited. He felt sure that Dr. Cornelius would not have said so much unless he meant to tell him more sooner or later. In this he was not disappointed. A few days later his tutor said, "Tonight I am going to give you a lesson in astronomy. At the dead of night two noble planets, Tarva and Alambel, will pass within 1 degree of each other. Such a conjunction has not occurred for 200 years, and your Highness will not live to see it again. It will be best if you will go to bed a little earlier than usual. When the time of the conjunction draws near, I will come and wake you." This didn't seem to have anything to do with old Narnia, which was what Caspian really wanted to hear about, but getting up in the middle of the night is always interesting, and he was moderately pleased. When he went to bed that night, he thought at first he would not be able to sleep, but he soon dropped off, and it seemed only a few minutes before he felt someone gently shaking him. He sat up in bed and saw that the room was full of moonlight. Dr. Cornelius, muffled in a hooded robe and holding a small lamp in his hand, stood by the bedside. Caspian remembered at once what they were going to do. He got up and put on some clothes. Although it was a summer night, he felt colder than he had expected, and was quite glad when the doctor wrapped him in a robe like his own, and gave him a pair of warm, soft bushkins for his feet. A moment later, both muffled so that they could hardly be seen in the dark corridor, and both shod so they made almost no noise, master and pupil left the room. Caspian followed the doctor through many passages and up several staircases, and at last, through the little door in a turret, they came out on the leads. On one side were the battlements, on the other a steep roof. Below them, all shadowy and shimmery, the castle gardens. Above them, stars and moon. Presently they came to another door which led into the great central tower of the whole castle. Dr. Cornelius unlocked it and began to climb the dark, winding stair of the tower. Caspian was becoming excited. He had never been allowed up this stair before. It was long and steep, but when they came out on the roof of the tower, and Caspian got his breath, he felt that it was all been worth it. Away on his right he could see, rather indistinctly, the western mountains. On his left was the gleam of the great river, and everything was so quiet that he could hear the sound of the waterfall at Beaver's Dam, a mile away. There was no difficulty in picking out the two stars that he had come to see. They hung rather low in the southern sky, almost as bright as two little moons and very close together.
Finish up the game that we have been playing, right? Or the games I've already promised, you know? So, the goal is to finish Witcher 3, Final Fantasy 7, the No Complaints run, Dawn Trail, because I just haven't, Warhammer 40k, and Code Vein, right?
Mm-hmm. Are they going to have a collision? He asked in an awestruck
Sounds good, man. We'll
voice.
play some Stardew together.
Nay, dear prince, said the doctor, and he too spoke in a whisper. The great lords of the upper sky know the
Looks like
steps
we're gonna do
of
Stardew
their
with Lorelei.
dance too well for that. Look well upon them. Their
Um,
meeting is fortunate, and means some great good for the
there,
sad realm of Narnia.
I want
Tarva,
to call
the
out people.
Lord of Victory, salutes
I want to call out
Alambil,
with people. I want to reach
the
out.
Lady of
I want to
Peace.
reach out more often
They're
to
just coming to the
either people
nearest.
that we haven't seen in a while, like Curran.
It's a pity that tree gets in the way, said Caspian. We'd really see better from the west tower, though it's not so high. Dr. Cornelius said nothing for about 2 minutes, but stood still, with his eyes fixed on Tarva and Alambil. Then he drew a deep breath and turned to Caspian. There, he said, you have seen what no man now alive has seen, nor will see again. And you are right. We should have seen it even better from the smaller tower. I brought you here for another reason. Caspian looked up at him, but the doctor's hood concealed most of his face. The virtue of this tower, said Dr. Cornelius, is that we have 6 empty rooms beneath us, and a long stair, and the door at the bottom of the stair is locked. We cannot be overheard. Are you going to tell me what you wouldn't tell me the other day? Said Caspian. I am, said the doctor, but remember, you and I must never talk about these things except here, on the very top of the great tower. No, that's a promise, said Caspian. But do go on, please. Listen, said the doctor. All you have heard about old Narnia is true. It is not the land of men. It is the country of Aslan, the country of the walking trees, the visible naiads, of fauns and satyrs, of dwarfs and giants, of the gods and the centaurs, of talking beasts. It was against these that the first Caspian fought. It is you Telmarines who silenced the beasts, and the trees and the fountains, and who killed and drove away the dwarfs and fauns, and are now trying to cover up even the memory of them. The king does not allow them to be spoken of. Oh, I do wish we hadn't, said Caspian, and I am glad it was all true, even if it is all over. Many of your race wish that in secret, said Dr. Cornelius. But doctor, said Caspian, why do you say my race? After all, I suppose you're a Telmarine too. Am I? Said the doctor. Well, you're a man anyway, said Caspian. Am I? Repeated the doctor in a deeper voice. At the same moment, throwing back his hood so that Caspian could see his face clearly in the moonlight. All at once, Caspian realized the truth, and felt that he had ought to have realized it long before. Dr. Cornelius was so small and so fat, and had such a very long beard. Two thoughts came into his head at the same moment. One was a thought of terror. He's not a real man, not a man at all. He's a dwarf, and he has brought me up here to kill me. The other was sheer delight. There are real dwarfs still, and I've seen one at last. So you've guessed it at the end, said Dr. Cornelius, or guessed it nearly right. I'm not a pure dwarf. I have human blood in me, too. Many dwarves escaped in the great battles and lived on, shaving their beards and wearing high-heeled shoes and pretending to be men. They have mixed with your Telmarines. I am one of those, only a half-dwarf, and if any of my kindred, the true dwarves, are still alive anywhere in the world, doubtless they would despise me and call me a traitor. But never in all these years have we forgotten our own people and all the other happy creatures of Narnia and the long lost days of freedom. I'm I'm sorry, doctor, said Caspian. It wasn't my fault, you know. I am not saying these things in blame of you, dear prince, answered the doctor. You may well ask why I say them at all, but I have two reasons. Firstly, because my old heart has carried these secret memories so long that it aches with them and would burst if I did not whisper them to you. But secondly, for this, that when you become king, you may help us, for I know that you also, Telmarine though you are, love the old things. I do, said Caspian. But how can I help? You can be kind to the poor remnants of the dwarf people, like myself. You can gather learned magicians and try to find a way of awakening the trees once more. You can search through all the nooks and wild places of the lands to see if any fauns or talking beasts or dwarfs are perhaps still alive and hiding. Do you think there are any? Asked Caspian eagerly. I do not know. I don't know, said the doctor with a deep sigh. Sometimes I'm afraid there can't be. I have been looking for traces of them all my life. Sometimes I have thought I heard a dwarf drum in the mountains. Sometimes at night in the woods I thought I caught a glimpse of fauns and satyrs dancing a long way off. But when I came to the place, there was never anything there. I have often despaired, but something always happens to me. Something always happens to start me hoping again. I don't know. But at least you can try to be a king like the High King Peter of old, and not like your uncle. Then it's true about the kings and queens too, and the White Witch, said Caspian. Certainly it is true, said Cornelius. Their reign was the golden age in Narnia, and the land has never forgotten them. Did they live in the castle, doctor? Nay, my dear, said the old man. This castle is a thing of yesterday. Your great great grandfather built it, but when the two sons of Adam and the two daughters of Eve were made kings and queens of Narnia by Aslan himself, they lived in the castle of Cair Paravel. No man alive has seen that blessed place, and perhaps even the ruins of it have now vanished. But we believe it to be far from here, down at the down at the mouth of the great river, on the very shore of the sea. Ugh, said Caspian with a shudder. Do you mean in the black woods, where all the, you know, the ghosts live? Yes, His Highness speaks as if you have been taught, said the doctor. But it is all lies. There are no ghosts there. That is a story invented by the Telmarines. Your kings are in deadly fear of the sea because they can never quite forget that in all stories Aslan comes from over the sea. They don't want to go near it, and they don't want anyone else to go near it. So they have let great woods grow up to cut their people off from the coast. But because they have quarreled with the trees, and they are afraid of the woods, and because they are afraid of the woods, they imagine that they are full of ghosts, and the kings and great men hating both the sea and the wood partly believe these stories, and partly encourage them. They feel safer if no one in Narnia dares go down to the coast and look out to the sea, toward Aslan's land and the morning and east end of the world. There was a deep silence between them for a few minutes. Then Dr. Cornelius said, "Come, we have been here long enough. It is time to go to bed." "Must we?" said Caspian. "I'd like to go on talking about these things for hours and hours and hours." "Someone might begin looking for us if we did that," said Dr. Cornelius. All right, and that's where I am going to. Ouch! Stuck the book hit my finger. And that's where I'm going to end that right there. I am going to be switching to Stardew Valley with Sagril. Boop. Alright, switch it and okie dokie. Alright, time to go into the chat room with Hubby and Butthead. Stop ignoring me!
Hi, sweetheart.
Hello, dear.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting Stardew set up right now. Do you want to? Do you mind starting a new game while we for our streams for the stream?
Are there secrets and things you want to do?
I kind of want to try to do a tree farm. I actually want to try to do a tree farm and all of that, and let you go do mining and everything this time. Right?
Oh, I'm not doing mining. You can forget that. No offense.
But no, I wanted to try to do a four corners farm with the trees and everything, so we could set that up a little bit more cleanly.
You know, Four Corners is literally just with the four farms stationed at the corners, right?
Oh, I'm aware.
That's all that is.
Oh, I know.
And it's all isolated.
Oh, I know. Anubis says hi, love.
Hello, Anubis, my wonderful friend. How are you doing this afternoon? Absolutely, I die in there. I die in there as often as I die in Minecraft, which is a lot. Yeah, so woo.
But yeah, I was thinking to
Um
do a four corners farm to get a little bit of everything. Hey, garlic.
Garlic buddy, what up?
Set my eye
Wait, you
color.
what? Yo, what happened?
What, Anubis? cabin. We want the cabins close to each other.
Hazumi
Separate.
laugh. Yeah, no, seriously. I die so easily in Minecraft. It is not even funny. And we're on like normal mode. That's why I have such big walls and I'm so anal about light. Yes. Yes, I do. I don't go underground very often for that reason. You can ask Tank. I think he's lurking though. But yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I do not diggy holes. I am not a dwarf.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna hit skip intro, hun, but I'm setting it up a 4 corners farm for us, okay?
Okay.
I'm just naming it the stream farm so we know that we play this one on stream together. Is that good?
So should we share our money then?
I don't mind sharing the money. Do you want to share the money?
I mean, if you want to.
Sounds good by
Uh,
me, love.
I want people to actually order foods from me too.
Oh, I need to make sure I put
Oh, shoot. I
Anubis'
gotta go
food back
back
on
to
screen.
gaming and um crap.
Let me put Anubis' drink back because Anubis ordered a drink
So
and
why haven't you given it?
no, I did. It just on the other screen.
Ah,
There it is. Brought it back.
there it is. Stardew.
All right.
By the way, Anubis, I actually have the menu also.
Stream. The game's up when you're ready, love. It should show up in
Yeah, it
your
did.
join.
Yep.
Yep. So let's starting to clear the farm. But no, Lorelai and I have been playing like throughout the December together. Lots of Stardew offline, and I know
Oh
she's been
my
streaming.
god, like it is insane.
And the thing is, Lorelai didn't know, but I used to play Harvest Moon a lot when I was a kid. So like farming games like this are an actual favorite type of game.
Dang it, I messed up my hair. Oh well.
Yeah. So I used to play the Harvest Moon on the Game Boy, like the Game Boy Color, a long time ago. And then I would play the Nintendo 64 version, and then I played the GameCube version, right? And then I played Rune Factory, which is one of the reasons why I'm actually decent in the mine. Right? And like we were talking a little bit ago before Lorelai joined us, I picked up Sukuna of Rice and Ruin with my Steam credits.
By the way, guys, be honest. Was he reading really fast, or was he actually reading at a decent pace? Because I'm curious. He's almost halfway through that book now.
It's a third, but
He said almost. Okay, it was decent. Alright, I just want to make sure, because when he reads to me, he's insanely fast. It's like, honey, I can't enjoy this. I love you. My love.
the last book I read to you was the
Norse mythology.
The background music added to the ambiance.
Oh, Jesus. Options.
I mean, I was running some Lord of the Rings background music along with it, so it helped. For me, it helped a little bit, right? I was playing sounds from the Shire.
I heard that. It was nice.
I mean, it makes sense. I'm talking about Tom Bombadil, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't it make sense?
I'll get this little area over here cleared so we can plant our parsnips and everything.
I don't like this farm. It's too spread out. I hate this. I hate you, honey. You're such a butt.
I love you too, honey.
I don't actually hate you.
I know you don't.
You're just always... You like to be a pain in the ass.
But I'm your pain in the ass.
That's not always a good thing! Why don't you go be someone else's pain in the ass? I can't give you back to your mom. You know, there's a thing that's going on like TikTok and crap like that where the guys are carrying their wives back to their fathers and be like, "I'm returning her. She's too expensive."
I cannot do this. I cannot do the same for her. Her
And the father's just like, "I've already got one. No take
Anubis, I cannot
backsies."
hold my breath. I cannot hold my breath long enough to take her back to her mother and the depths.
No, I was talking about me taking you back to your mom.
No, no. Anubis was saying, Lord, he can do the same for you. You know. I'm like, I can't hold my breath
No,
that long.
my mom is not of the mortal coil anymore, and has not been for since February 15th, 9 years.
As I said, I cannot hold my breath long enough to get down there.
Sweetie, you gotta die to get there. No, thank you.
Exactly. I can't hold my breath that long.
You know, I can't even say I'll kill you if you do that because then that would be kind of defeating the purpose.
You're right.
The whole point is keeping you alive so you can harass me another day. Which you're very good at.
I am very good at harassing you, and I love you. And I love you so much that I do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it if you didn't love me.
Precisely. I gotta take a short nap in the bed to get enough.
Which
Enough
is
energy back.
one of the reasons why I try to get you like whatever you want and
That's why I try
cause
to spoil you too, love.
I know, you do what you can.
You need coffee or anything while I'm thinking about it?
No, it's gonna dry my mouth out and
No, I meant like anything. Like, did you want like a drink, a soda, some tea, or some water?
no, I'm good. I appreciate it though. There's a lot of freaking mixed seeds. Is this farm bigger?
This farm is slightly bigger in the fact that you actually have more space to do things. Because
Okay.
there's not as many cliffs or rivers running through it.
Yeah. So we're going to need to get. Alright, we're gonna need to get a well, and then once we're able to actually get proper, oh yeah, we need to get the, what is it, the recipe for the large chests soon-er.
Yeah. I got parsnips planted, so that we're good.
Cool. I'm just clearing out all of the... I'm mowing the grass effectively right now, because that takes 0 energy to do.
Yep. But, yeah, no. So, honey, do you have any goals for you personally this year?
Actually have, like, some, like, collabs and stuff, because I usually don't. Get myself a little bit more out there. Play more games. I actually, we got the goal for me to play Dead by Daylight, which I'm actually terrified of right now because even just the opening messes with me, but Duck has been wanting to play. I want to actually play with more than just my small group of people.
There's also the fact of, like, we also want to try to,
I want to do a thing where I read stories that... I want to have a thing where people actually say, hey, we want you to read these stories again. I just started one of the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. And I still have to finish Robin Hood, because that was one of the ones that was voted on the year before last, because I was working on completing that list. That's the last one in that list. And I know, was it Anubis wants me to do the sequel to Changeling. I eventually will have to get that.
Oh wow, I already have level 1 foraging. But yeah, no, it's one of those things, like, we both want to try to do, like, more things in this next year.
The only thing is that I'm going to say is that if people are going to say, hey, you should read this book, they kind of need to be there for when I read the book, or it's not fair to those who actually show up. No offense to anybody, but I'm there to read your selection for you who show up.
Mm-hmm. You want me to make a chest?
Yeah, that's kind of necessary.
Okay, let's see. I can make two right this instant. So I'll leave the general supply chest brown. Make our green seed chest again.
And then we also got to make the white chest for the turn-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we gotta make that white chest for turning. So, as you guys will kind of watch, like me and Lorelai have this like sorting system for stuff, where we use like a white chest to help clarify what we're going to be turning in for like the community center and stuff like that. So we try to make sure that we have things like kind of in a working order.
I got foraging 1, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually got some of the color stuff from Amar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a good idea. Light the fire inside the house. I remember the first time I played, I just went in and
Shut up.
lit the fire up.
Shut up. But
Lorelai's mad because she didn't even think about doing it at first.
shish you.
I mean, think about it, hon. Right? Are you really mad about me lighting the fireplace?
I mean, if it were real, it would be better.
Well, I wish we kind of had a fireplace in our IRL location.
But we don't, because then we have to worry about actual fire risk. I have 132. I am going to take care of this in the bottom right corner, okay?
Okay, well, like I said, I'm slowly working out the
Oh Jesus,
corner
this
around
one's
the
still
house.
been untouched. I'll take care of the bottom two, clearing the bottom 2 areas.
Mm-hmm.
You take care of the top 2 areas. Okay? Ooh.
Playing dangerously close with my stamina bar.
Same. By the way, I found the geode place.
Oh, you found a little mining spot?
I did. There's some copper here.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Okay. But yeah, no. So just so that before it gets too late in game, right? The Four Corners farm, as far as I'm aware, has
You're
a
in my
little bit of
territory.
I'm just showing it, right? So you got like you have a little mining area down here.
More fireworks.
You should not be firing fireworks nearby.
I heard it a little bit earlier, and I was wondering if that's what I had heard, but it sounds like it.
The forest. So the path in the middle, right across from what looks like the ruins of a greenhouse, is straight to the forest. So that's actually kind of nice. That's in the middle of the farm. You know.
Uh-huh.
I think down here has the pond, in the pond of the river. Yep. Which, since I'm right here, I'm going to fill up my watering pail.
Your water. Oh yeah, you did. You've done that.
Yeah, because I was doing the farming.
Yeah.
And then over here, I believe is I think this is just another clear area, which I kind of like the fact that we have multiple like areas that are just large and clear. You know?
Mhm.
We just have to, clean them out. So, just so you know my thoughts on, I was thinking that places around the houses, right? We do like
Foraging! Level 1!
Yep.
Yay!
Yep. Level 1 foraging. I'll keep working on the parsnips over here.
Well, I'm gonna go down and
Just got a letter. It's time for the beach now.
Okay, where's my house up here?
Your house is up here.
Oh wow, it is like, dude, it's close.
Yeah. Like the Four Corners houses, I actually learned when I did a test world, right? If you set up like three starting cabins alongside the main house, they all just get lined up right up top here.
Hey yo, forageables.
Nope, that is the wrong thing. But yeah.
By the way, do we have enough wood yet to repair the beach thing?
No, we don't.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm coming to get my fishing rod at it while I'm at it.
Term! Hey look, the quest board.
The quest board that has nothing on it at the moment. But yeah, since Lorelai and I are also sharing the sharing our
We're going to have to be
effectively,
very careful.
not that we actually have to be very careful. We just have to talk to each other when we do things, you know?
Bamboo fishing rod.
So, by the way, this is Willie. If you haven't met Willie, Willie's the fisherman. He owns the fishing shack here. He has a boat, but
Fingies!
we don't have a boat.
Book! Come on.
Clam.
Mussel.
Clam.
Clam. I'll put mine to be turned in. Hello!
And there's the bridge that we need like 300 pieces of wood to fix.
Nope, can't reach it. Okay.
But, yeah, no, so... As I was saying, like, Lorelai and I have been playing this a lot lately, only because the fact is we've been
It's addictive.
It is kind of addictive. But it's also just a very calm game that we can play together.
Yep.
This is Gunther. He's our local museum and librarian. Immediately give him glass shards.
Keep them away from your eyes.
And get 250 gold for it.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's odd to watch it go up and be like, I didn't do shit.
I mean, you're just not used to it, right?
There's a reason most of us do not do shared.
Because we're all little like money fiends.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like we're playing cooperatively, so I don't see like why we can't, right?
By the way, I made a chest for our tools and shit that I'm just gonna stick on.
Sounds good, huh? I'm gonna put one of the clams in here.
I already did.
Oh, okay. Then I'm gonna put the other clams in here. And then I'm gonna get back to work.
Me too.
Yeah, so Lorelai and I since we've been playing this so much, we've kind of got into patterns of like how we want to play and how we want to do things. Right? And so as a result, we have like clear the farm, you know, get your chests made, right? One of the things I really want to focus on, since we're playing with the combined purse, is I really want to get a summer tree planted as soon as possible.
Yeah, you're adorable. We'll focus on the orchards later, sweetheart.
No, I'm just saying I would like to do that so we can get the fruits taken care of as soon as possible.
The fruits can come later because that is incredibly expensive. If we need to, we can wait until year 2. Because what we need to do is we need to get it where we get the quality sprinklers up, and then we can get 1 quality sprinkler per like 8.
So what level does quality sprinklers take?
I don't remember.
I was just thinking because without watering after the trees are made up.
You do realize we don't have to water the trees anymore, it automatically does it.
No, I'm aware. You don't have to water trees, honey. I was just saying because
I meant
you know what I meant,
booger.
I was just saying because if we can get a summer fruit down, that is up to 28 fruits per season. You know? And the fruit also are required for a lot of the bundles, is what the other reason I was thinking about that, you know? Because I know, like, the artisan bundle needs it, the animal bundle needs it,
You do realize
There's
with
a
the
lot of
animal
bundles.
bundle, we have to actually have animals.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, because, like, there's one bundle that we almost always have ready to go once we have wheat that needs apples. You see why I was like, okay, we could maybe get the apple tree down, right?
I know what you're saying. The thing is we still need to wait on this.
So the wait, how much? No, what I'm saying is,
Till
I'd like to
season
get
2,
one
sweet. You're 2, okay? If we
I
have
really
to,
don't want to wait.
I know you don't want to, but we might have to get the stuff that we need to get it rolling. There are some things we might need to do to get things going beforehand, so that way it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to get those things.
Well, no, so like
Those things aren't
here's
time locked.
my love.
What?
My plan was, right? Like we get our packs, so that's 4,000. We get our strawberries, right? So that's another 2,000, right? And then we worry about getting a fall tree.
No. We don't make enough.
Oh, we will.
How?
Mining. Fishing.
I can't fish faster, sweetie.
You can't fish faster. But the amount of mining that I do and enough of the resources I usually bring back, I can sell the excess. Side check from Tiger.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Tiger. But no, no. Hey, Tiger, if you've had other things you've got to take care of, you got other things you got to take care of. You're fine.
It happens. It is what it is.
So, as a result of what I was saying, right? Like, so I know we have things we got to do first, but I'm pretty sure with the combination of our fishing and my mining and making like smelting real quick, it's going to be really easy. You know?
Yeah, you say that. Let's just get this stuff taken care of first and see what we're at.
Now, we do gotta remember, we gotta go fish in the ocean when it's raining later, remember?
Eels.
Eels.
And then once I have the ability, I need to get an iridium fishing rod.
Which, you know, for you can be really, really fast.
Depending on if you buy a fruit tree or not.
Like I said, it can be really, really fast for you. What level does it unlock? Level 6?
I don't remember. What, the iridium fishing rod? Willie just sells it. You have to have 7,500 to get it. It doesn't unlock at a level, sweetie.
I thought you had to be at a certain level to get it.
Oh, Willie just sells it.
Well, shit. Then, I mean, I can wait on doing, like, pickaxes and axes then on that one.
No, get that. Because the sooner we can get rid of some of the bigger ores and stuff, or the bigger things blocking.
And everything. I mean, yeah, because there's the
foraging too.
Yep, I got foraging too as well. Yeah, I mean, because I noticed the four corners have like the quick paths between the four sectors, but they're all blocked off by like the stumps and everything.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow I'm going. By the way, tomorrow I'm going to go to the beach, and I'm going to.
One of the reasons I'm also saying to let me get this stuff is because I might actually get a level in mining or so by getting the rocks, and I also have the ores in my area,
Yep.
or at least my area to clear.
Yeah. I don't know if you'll get a level in mining just from the clearing stuff.
Oh yeah,
But
you
we'll get
will.
a pretty damn close one.
By the way, I'm tired again.
You're already exhausted again? Yeah, I understand.
Well,
Stamina in this
considering,
game goes quick without food.
honey.
Hmm?
Oh, you do realize we have like over 500 wood, right? I'm gonna go repair the bridge.
Are you gonna be able to get there in time?
Mhm.
Okay.
Since when have we ever had that bridge repaired by day 2?
Very rarely.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I've already cleared out the first area.
I've cleared out the trees of the first one.
I'm just gonna go to sleep for the night at this point.
I'll be coming back for that.
I was about to say, as soon as, because by the time I get enough energy to do anything again, it's going to be, it's going to be a little on the late side for us to try to do anything more for the night, you know?
Alright, I got an urchin and 2 coral. And we still have like 200 wood left.
We can hold on to the urchin. I don't think the coral's used for any
It's
bundles at
not.
the moment.
I was gonna hold on to the urchin anyway because it's for a later bundle.
Yeah. But as soon as I go down in the mine and I get us like some quality fertilizer and all that, we can start maybe getting those parsnips or anything. Especially if the mine opens up really early.
One thing we should probably start doing is doing the specific type of plots for like 8 around instead of 5. So that way we can actually have for the
You mean like the
qualities.
3x3s?
Yeah, well, kinda.
Well, it's 8 around one thing in the middle, right?
Yeah.
That's a 3x3.
Yeah, having that might be a good idea. Oh, excuse me. So that way we have it ready for, or we may not have the quality sprinkler until later. Hey, charcoal kiln, yay. I just added 310.
That's gonna list both of our profits for the day, hon.
My bad.
So that's both of us gaining 310.
Never mind. It's raining!
So let me drop off what I have in my pockets real quick. Because I don't have to worry about watering. Right? And I can take the fishing rod and we can go down to the beach.
Oh shit, that's right! Eel hunting.
We're gonna go eel hunting. I was gonna say bring a hoe, because I think I just forgot.
I actually carry that on me all the time now.
But yeah, no, we can go get some fishing done. And fish will be a lot of money in our pocket early on.
Oh, I'm aware. Why do you think I fish so much? And not to mention we need to get the 25% more versus the crab pots cost less, because Amar was right. It's actually a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
I'm
I'm checking the side beach first. The one with the tide pools on it.
We need to see if we can get the other seeds as soon as possible too.
Which other seeds?
The spring seeds.
Like the spring mix seeds?
I need to see if there's other
Or
seeds.
are you talking like the spring crops?
Oh, that's what I meant.
Okay, well yeah, I mean that's not gonna be hard. Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Ah! God damn it. Turn around.
You ate the
God
wrong
damn it.
bush. D-
What the
Open up
hell's
your
going
menu,
on?
pause, and then reopen your menu.
What the
Or
hell?
if you're touching your mouse, if you've touched your mouse, if your mouse is on screen, it's pointing you towards your mouse. That's on like your mouse is on screen, just open up your inventory and then close it, and it should remove your mouse.
I use my mouse to fish.
Okay, never mind then. I forgot how small the first level of fishing is.
Yep. We don't need herring.
I mean, that's fine if we don't need herring, but you know. That's halibut.
Halibut's at night.
Have you ever thought about like what the fish actually experience sometimes?
Sardine. Not really, other than all of a sudden you have a hook in your cheek and go, ow, and yanked.
Oh, I was thinking like the SpongeBob episode. Like, what do they think when they successfully get away? Are they like giggling like madmen, or are they like fucking Patrick who's like, cheesy?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you never seen the Hooked episode for SpongeBob?
I have not.
There's a whole episode where Mr. Krabs is going off about, oh boys, you know, it's fishing season again in the ocean, so you should not go play around those hooks. And Patrick, hey, SpongeBob, you want to go play with those hooks and go eat all the free food off like it's a buffet? Sure thing, Patrick. Gets hooked, gets saved by Mr. Krabs. You're a fucking idiot, SpongeBob. I mean, that's basically the summary of that episode. Oh, I got a flounder. And I got level up for fishing. You're telling me you've never seen it?
No.
Oh my, well, I know you're not into SpongeBob, but you know.
Are we doing cartoon episodes? Are we doing those kind of episodes in the server?
We could. We really could.
I have issues with max casting, so I don't think I'm gonna do it.
I sometimes don't hit either, hon. Don't worry about it.
Like it's like you're and like I just miss it most of the time.
I understand.
Fishing one.
Yep. We have so much money in our pockets suddenly already.
Oh shit. I only have 6 fish.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I also have 2 seaweeds, so. Excuse me.
That treasure chest on my screen is bait because it's at the top of the screen away from the fish. Yeah, I currently have 10 fish in my pocket. I just counted. I miscounted before. Which means today is going to be worth quite a bit of money. That's it. Are sardines part of the package? I don't remember what the sardines are.
I don't remember.
Always good.
I don't remember, but keep a sardine.
Mm-hmm.
Someone just went live.
Probably.
Panda! And
Panda's
Quincy.
live? Oh, man.
Panda and Quincy.
Mmm.
Yeah, but guess what the fuck we have to start attempting to catch the moment it becomes summer?
What?
Super cucumber.
Oh, that's right. I'm here. Think I got a meal.
Is it jumping all over?
It's fighting me hard.
If it's jumping all over, yep.
Oh, this is gonna be so good once we start unlocking the bundles.
Mm.
I just got a gold star herring.
Nice.
That means we're going. I'll be honest. I think we're gonna make a lot of money today. I think we'll be set up for like getting either an upgrade or getting all of our seeds for tomorrow.
Hopefully. One thing I also want to do is I want to start making signs.
Mm-hmm.
I need to make at least 9.
We should have the wood to do it right now.
Yeah, that would be nice. Not to mention how many trees are on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if we can get a well soon. Oh, guess what the fuck I think I just got.
I think you just got a meal too?
I believe so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, baby!
Yeah.
Silver Star.
Yeah, we both got silver star eels. Hell yeah. I think after this cast, I'm going to head back and go use the rest of my stamina to keep clearing out the farm.
I'm gonna keep selling. Or I'm gonna keep fishing.
So. Yeah, this way I'm already back over there. I'm going to have I can sell most of my inventory.
2 coal and oh, motherfucker. Okay. No. Shit. Throw away the coal, take the bait, throw away the Joja Cola. Alright. Inventory's full. Fuck. Oh, we're gonna have to compete for that.
What do you mean we're gonna have to compete?
The backpack.
Again, what do you mean we have to compete?
Who's gonna get it first?
You.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I don't have to have it first. You know?
I also have to figure out, because usually you can fish on the farm. I have to figure out where on the farm you can do it.
It's lower left. We need we need 1 sardine.
Got it.
Okay, I'm putting my 1 sardine in right now.
Okay.
We need tilapia for the ocean fish.
Did you already put the eel in there?
Yeah, I'm putting my eel in right there.
Alright.
So everything else can be sold. Yep. Yeah, no, you can have the pack first, Hen. That's fine. And if there's enough money left over, I'll get my pack, right?
Oh, eventually we will have the money.
Mm-hmm. I'm just pretty sure we're gonna have the money probably after today.
Geode!
Nice. And because we're shared money, I'll have to wait until we have like a good chunk of money to do geode cracking.
Uh-huh. And I am sorry for that.
It's fine. It just means like if I go do museum stuff, like I'm gonna be like cracking a bunch of geodes at once, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing. It just means I have to do like large batches of geodes instead of just a little bit here, a little bit there, you know? Okay, I am exhausted. I was playing with the edge of tomorrow kind of line to get that last tree cut down.
Alright, I'm gonna come and drop my stuff in.
I'm gonna grab my watering can tomorrow. I think the weather is going to be clear tomorrow. Yep, it's gonna be clear tomorrow.
Level 1 fishing.
Proficiency.
Ooh, look at them numbers.
You see what I mean? Well, like I'm pretty sure we can get one of the packs tomorrow.
Yeah, but once I get...
Unless you want to go buy the seeds.
I'm gonna go look for the seeds first. I'm gonna take care of some of the rocks over here first. So it's still clear a little bit because Pierre's opens at 9.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So what do you want to put down here?
In the lower left?
Yeah, lower left, lower right. Which one's going to be the actual farm? Where are we putting all of our actual stuff?
So here's my thought, right? I'm thinking the lower right we turn into like the workshop area, so we put like whatever we want for like kegs, furnaces, all that, right?
Okay.
The top left be like our trees, so be them fruit, be like the fruit trees or the tapped trees, right? Or trees that we're using for like cutting for wood, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then we just keep the area in the top right kind of being our main farm, right?
We'll
Does that
probably
make
need
sense?
more space once we get like the quality sprinklers and we're doing the 3x3s.
Oh, no, I agree with you, right? I mean, what we could do is we use the top left or the top right as like the main farm areas. Up until I think we have to unlock the greenhouse to have that extra area for all seasons farming.
Yeah, we do.
So, you know what I mean, right?
Alright, I'm gonna go drop my stuff up and then go see how much seeds I gotta get.
Okay.
At least for the spring stuff. Because the sooner we can get...
The sooner we can get sprinklers set up, the better.
Well, that's gonna take a while. But the sooner we can get the scarecrows up.
We just need farming one.
Or is there a way to buy it? Is there a way to buy a scarecrow?
I don't... Well, the rare crows could show up, right?
I have a gold star dandelion.
Like, the rare crows is the only way I can think of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That without farming, we can get a free scarecrow.
Topaz on a chain. Please deliver sometime... I'd like to put topaz on a chain. 240 gold. To Robin.
So, that now begs the question, is the mine already open? You know? Because if the mine's already open, then once I get farming 1, right? Then I can start making scarecrows, and then I can do I can go from
So,
there, right?
bean, cauliflower, and potato. That
Mm-hmm.
all. That's all he's really selling. That.
Yeah. Quality sprinklers take level 6 farming. Horseradish. Hello there, Linus.
Which means since you've started the farm, you have to keep going until you get level 1.
Mm-hmm.
Which means I can't even help you. Tiger also just did vibe check.
Another vibe check. Thanks, Tiger. I'm running around foraging for the random items right now.
Did you go down to the forest?
I've not gone down to the forest. I went up around towards the mine to check if it was already open because she's asking for a topaz, and it's not open. You checking there? Make sure you two are well hydrated. I appreciate it. Have you checked the beach already today yet, hon?
No.
Okay, I'm checking the beach then while I'm at
I
it.
went to Pierre's immediately to make sure I could get the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then we gotta try to get the farming one as fast as possible. I need to take a nap.
We're picking up then. There was a single piece of coral to here today. After this day, I do. Can we take a moment to pause so we can do a quick bathroom run?
Yes. Why wouldn't we
Okay.
be able to?
I just wanted to ask. Hello there, Carolyn. Hello there,